Right.
Welcome to today's C-Suite Support Council meeting. I'm Trisha Ben. I'm the CEO of C-Suite Network, and I have the incredible honor of introducing none other than Paul Whitley. Now, of course, he is one of my heroes, but he is actually one of our hero leaders as well. And of course, the chair of the C-Suite Support Council. Paul's leadership is extraordinary. And those of us who know Paul know the heart that goes behind all that he does and all that he supports. As a fractional CFO, and someone who has a mission to see business leaders actually succeed and really work through those challenges that we all have in terms of not only how we're building and scaling our businesses, but how we exit them successfully as well. So, Paul, I know today is going to be extraordinary. Speaking of hero leadership, we have someone who is guesting today that's absolutely extraordinary as well. So I'm going to hand things over. I know we're going to have a great conversation.
All right. Thank you, Tricia. And I appreciate the opportunity of seeing your lovely face this morning. Today, we are going to be talking to a good friend of all of ours, CJ Davidson. And before we do, C-Suite Support is a fractional CFO companies that work with companies around the country. And we do fractional CFO controllers, accountants, and work with getting clarity in your business. But today, our focus is CJ Davidson. CJ is one of the most unique individuals I know, and that's in a good way. He is outgoing, friendly, and at the same time, he's trying to do the best for his clients, for his people, and everybody he works with. He's the founder and CEO of Proxy Financial, a strategic advisory firm serving elite financial advisors and RIA principals throughout private transactions, succession planning, invitation-only Proxy Circle coming up in Las Vegas. He also leads Proxy Advisory Group, the client-facing wealth practice that he runs with managing partner Brian Calkins, and oversees a network that includes Proxy Capital Partners, Proxy Wealth Advisors, Proxy Capital, and there's a bunch more, but I'm also having the privilege of being on the board with him at the C-Suite Network Finance Council, where he is very much involved in helping the people in C-Suite Network, and there with Trisha and some 15 others, he puts together things to make things much better for C-Suite Network. So with that, let me introduce you to CJ Davidson.
How you doing, Paul? Good to be here. What a mouthful. I apologize for making you go through all of that. I don't know who set us up today.
I know, I've never had to list them all off. I had to have a list to list them all off because I couldn't remember them. But
you could have just started with generally nice guy. Let's see how it goes.
That don't work. That summarizes everything that's necessary. You're right.
It's good to be here. It's great to spend the time with you. Happy, what day is it today? Tuesday. Happy Tuesday to you, Paul.
Well, tell us a little bit about your background. To why are you worth spending an hour with? What are you going to share with us today to help the people understand where they are and where they could be if they can work with you?
So there's something going on in our industry that I think is a big deal to us in financial services, but is very rarely talked about. So I was thinking about this today and like, what direction do we go in? Do I talk about how, we're doing things that are a little bit different than other firms, that the way that we're supporting our advisors is unique and really interconnected with the people that we want to be and how we want to serve as humans to other humans? Like all that stuff is really cool. And I get to gush about it a lot these days, joining groups or speaking in front of audiences of different types, but I don't get to do what I do with you guys that often. And that, what I say by that is we kind of get to go under the cover a little bit and go a little bit deeper than usual. And instead of just talking about what's on the surface and promoting all the cool things that are going on at Proxy, there's something stewing underneath this industry, and it's happening right now for the first time in maybe 30 or 40 years. And I don't see it happening again for another 30 or 40 years. And that we're calling it kind of the great advisor migration. It's this movement of retirees, the baby boomer generation, the 50s, 60s, 70-year-olds in the business that are saying, hey, I think it's time to turn in the old Note Blanc pen and sail off into the sunset, if you will, and retire. And the industry, for all the things it's done positively to evolve as best it can with us, I think one of the things that it's really lacking is an understanding of how to really address that. So I thought it'd be fun kind of to dig into that a little bit today, Paul, and to kind of shed some light on what's going on there. Is that interesting to you?
Well, I'd probably start with one of the things that I've heard you say in the past, that you're in the room many times for growth and operations conversation, and never in that conversation did the client personally come up. What was the moment where you realized that you had to leave and build something else other than just fix mechanical processes?
Yeah, that was one of my aha moments. There's two big aha moments. The first was, and this we don't have the time for it, but the first time I interacted with a client in a way that I knew I was doing something like meaningful for them, that I was solving a real problem, and that the value that I brought to their life was maybe more than they could have done on their own. That you have to like experience that in our business and really like emotionally connect to that before you understand whether or not this is for you. And that was a big one for me, but that's another conversation. The From a business building perspective, my big aha moment was you're exactly right. And I'm glad you brought that up. There was a time in my career when I was maybe a little bit younger than most in the room, and I was invited to join a team that was working on a major migration project. There was an acquisition of another major institution, happens from time to time, and I was asked to join a small group of leaders on the West Coast to architect the way we're going to take where we are right now and bring it to where they wanted us to go. And the aha moment, or the really unsettling part of that, was in those conversations, right? We were in charge of making decisions about the livelihood of hundreds of individuals that were relied upon by hundreds of other individuals, right? And none of those conversations were about what's in the best interests of those people, either the client or the advisor, which was the client in their respect. And that made me feel some type of way. It was like, not only did it made me feel like a little bit of a fraud, like what was I doing my whole career? I was putting the client first, and I was doing all this and representing an organization that I thought was aligned, and there was not alignment. But what do I do now? I'm 10 years in, right? I moved to New York to start my career. I built this entire thing, and then I moved back to California to be a leader for this institution. And now it's like my North Star just evaporated. So it was very difficult to sit down in my early 30s and say, what do I do here? Do I take the one pill, if you will, and go down the road that they want me to go on and just put the blinders on? Or do I go into another business and start over again, right? And be aligned with my ethics as a person? Or do I do what I haven't seen very many successfully do in 2015, is carve my own path in this industry? So
Well, one of the things I'll tag along with you on that, I had the opportunity for a short period of time of being involved with investment banking firm, large one of the largest in the country, not to name anyone. But I was in several meetings to where we were talking about investments and processes and et cetera. And they would talk about this kind of a process. And the key component of that was, and this is the amount of fees that you'll earn off of that. And this, when you do this transfer, this is the kind of fees the company will earn, and you'll get a portion of the fees, and et cetera. So I sat in probably a half a dozen training meetings with them, listening to them, and their focus was, I'm going to say 95% on the company earnings and 5% on what the client needed. So having done that with one of the largest companies in the country, I think it just goes right along with what you were hearing where you were sitting, that, okay, who's the person that's important here? Is it the company? Is it me? Or is it the client? So I totally agree with that. Now, talk to me about what is Proxy. It's not just one company, it's a full network. Let's talk about, because you and I work together on the Finance Council, and I get the pleasure of watching you run and romp in all kinds of areas elsewhere. So let's talk about what is Proxy really.
life should be as simple as possible, but never simpler, right? Albert Einstein. And in our case, the simplest way to be able to do what we want to do, which is to meet the client truly where they are. When you say, I want to sit down with you and divulge my personal financial life and tell you where I am and where I really want to go, I want to be able to say, I can do that, and I can do that at a very high level. But putting that aside, do we like each other? The interpersonal relationship in our life is extremely important. Those we choose to be around and choose to spend our time with and choose to allow us to be served by them. Those are really important relationships, especially this one. It's like your doctor. You need to have a certain level of trust with that individual so that you can act on the things that they recommend. And if you don't put that in the center of things, if you don't focus on that as the centerpiece of the universe, you're going to lose track. And to your point a minute ago, like these companies would sit down and they'd make these decisions and they didn't really pinpoint what does the advisor need. So when we built Proxy, our first and foremost goal was to be able to sit down with a client anywhere in the world with any level of wealth and say, if you need help and we are your human, that we can do what you need us to do, not the version or the product that the company, and those things are valid. Like these companies build products that are useful and necessary for the public, and they hire people to sell those things. Those salespeople are not financial advisors. They're labeled and it feels as though they are a financial advisor, but they are a representative of an institution selling that institution's product. Before, in some cases, the sole focus on the client. There is, yes, I'm going to take care of the client every time, but I'm also being told that, hey, if I sell this much amount of this product this month, I hit a bonus and I get a gift card, right? There's a natural conflict there. Whether or not you choose to engage that conflict is your choice as a person. And that's your path, right? We wanted to create a company that didn't have that conflict, that when you sit down with the person and you like them and you want to serve them and they need help, that you can meet them where they are. And it just so happens you need to have an infrastructure that has multiple different institutions for that. The way we wanted to serve our US clients and sit down with somebody that's just getting started to build their financial life and give them the resources of a family office or a private client group, those like fancy names in the US, is a different infrastructure that needed to be built than serving the kitchen table family outside of the United States. The infrastructure necessary to be able to meet those folks where they are and help them get to where they go is a whole different set of skills and tools. It all interconnects though with that common theme that the client comes first, and be unreasonable about putting them first. So
I've heard you say, there we go. Well, I've heard you say the line that this industry has lost its way. What do you mean it's lost its way, and what specific thing that started measuring that it should never have? We kind of touched upon it, but I'm going to open that door for you.
I mean, you see it a little bit in like the headline stuff with going back to the office after COVID and these gigantic buildings that people don't want to go back to. There isn't a culture that entices that kind of activity, right? I would say at our company, we have people doing things around the country and people will fly in just to hang out with them and do it, right, on their downtime. We really enjoy being around one another and we want to cohabitate. We want to get together. That's why the summit once a year is so important to us, because it's the one time where we all get in a room instead of just little pods. And that's everything. So that's kind of a big headline one that you see. Like there's a conflict between a company that spent hundreds of millions of dollars building a building and needs to fill that building, and people that don't want to go into a building anymore and don't need that to serve their client to the highest level. That's a conflict, but it's also embedded in the options that a selling or a retiring individual in our business has in front of them today, right? They only have a few choices, and most of those choices are not very interested in what they want or what's the best interest for their client. Paul, do you know how often I meet a retiree and we say, paint a picture for me for what the next 5 years look like for you ideally? And they tell us in response they've never been asked such a question.
I can believe that. I have this saying of what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, in their particular case, they've grown up, and it's like, what do you want to be when you enjoy a life that's different than working every day of your life?
I don't think the industry is ready for people that are leaving in this big a drove and have very particular interests for what they want to do next. There's always been this infrastructure where you can slowly fade out and melt into the institution that you've worked for. But now with choice, people are looking around, and then, those choices aren't much better than just melting in, if you will.
Well, I know from having the opportunity of working with you, seeing you in action, and seeing you work with people, you put ethics and relationships at the center of purpose. And I've seen it. It's not words, it's not expressions. I've seen you do it. And from my viewpoint, that's what the difference of Proxy is from all of the other investment bankers that I have the opportunity to know and work with. And, that costs you something, but more importantly, it gives them something they really need. What are your thoughts on that?
It's difficult to play the long road without real perspective on what that's going to get you to. And in our industry, it's difficult to play the long game because you very rarely have control over your outcome. It has been something that I've thought about a lot. We get together as a leadership team, and the thought process, Ray Dalio calls it second and third order consequences, right? Everybody can decide, like, if I hit myself in the hand right now, it's going to hurt right now, right? But what is the second and third order consequence of that, right? Later on, maybe I have some issues and I can't go work out. And maybe into the future, this is going to be the first thing that starts giving out on me when I get old, right? Like, you have to understand the net effect of what you're trying to do right now and how it affects the interim and the long term. And if it doesn't fit all three phases, you probably need to reevaluate. And for a team to sit down knowing we have these intense, audacious goals that we love, but also very protective over making sure that the decisions we make now don't do anything but positively affect the long term. And maybe even living in that world a little too much, saying it's okay right now to take less because the utopia on the other side, if we execute properly, is perfect. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. Like, it it gives you perspective from multiple different ways. It brings you confidence, it brings you certainty. It also allows you to be patient at a relatively young age. And that's something we as a leadership team has definitely had to learn recently, is patience in a good way, right?
I
Fire hose,
understand.
it's tough.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we've talked about kind of the background and the goals and the desires of trying to help people. Let's go down to plain English. Let's talk
Yeah.
about what Proxy does. Walk us through the platform that you work with. How do you specifically help people? And what is your network that's around you that allows you to do more than just advise on one area or buy this or sell that or let me see what I can do? Talk about what you built out here.
When I speak to groups, I often say the thing we believe we do best is to provide an individual or a business owner the very best experience possible for them to understand where they are financially, where they truly want to go, and how to get there. And I say experience because hopefully if you do this right, you do this right once, right? Like you meet someone it's like you meet your wife, you meet your husband, right? Like there's that first meeting once and you want it to be special. And in our situation, we have the ability to prepare for every interaction with a stranger as they're deciding on whether or not to work with us forever, whether or not to tie that bond. And for us to not take that opportunity and that time to deliver in a way that we can choose to show them who we are is a huge missed opportunity that I think is rampant in our industry. We cherish that process. And we did this visual where it's like a yardstick, and like the first centimeter is this like sales process, this get to know you process. And then the rest of the yardstick is our systematic heartbeat together, our rhythm together for the rest of our lives. And that first part is only happening once, where everything else has a rhythm. And it's so important that we build an experience and provide something in those moments that the sticks, that creates that foundation. And we have the poise and the time to do it. And I think the net effect of that happy obsession, or that healthy obsession, I don't know what you want to call it, creates this environment where people can really lean in and kind of shed the worry or the mistrust or the am I going to get the right counsel, and it becomes something collaborative and it becomes something additive. In each meeting they're getting value that they don't have to even expose that they didn't know something, right? They can absorb something without exposing in those early days that they didn't know that, right? We give them all these opportunities to build this level of trust, and for them to really see, without us being paid or without them having to commit forever, to really where you want to go. And the net effect of that is we get at the end of this whole process and this whole, workshops and getting to know them, they look at us and they're like, gosh darn it, like this is all perfect and kind of like you. Like, I don't know why I wouldn't move forward. And that doing it that way and approaching it from what they're thinking and how they're processing the experience and being obsessed about making them feel as comfortable and confident as possible through that process so they can really make a great decision for themselves. it, I have never seen it done the way that our team does it. And it is so beyond what my vision was for that I think it really is truly something that we're the best at. And notice on purpose that I didn't say how good we are at the stuff we do. We are really, really good wealth managers. We are incredible planners. We are incredible estate planners and business structuring experts. All of the things that our clients need, I would put us up against anybody that I've met in the last 20 years. But that is a prerequisite. We have to be good at that for you to earn that first 30 minutes where we ask you what's important to you. From there, we have to show you that we deserve it. So I think we're the best at that. And the light up from our advisors on Monday morning when they get their new opportunities and they're chalked and ready for them so they can prepare to be great. That Monday morning lull in most companies becomes like Monday morning energy. It's like a Friday on a Monday here. So
Well, let's kind of walk through the platform of what Proxy is. Proxy Financial, Proxy Advisory Group, Capital Group, EB5, Proxy Circle, and then culminate into the Finance Council. What does that give you for a global view to look from and then to address to your clients?
yeah, the council is the really unique part of this, and it gives us like our super serum, if you will. So think about Proxy as a holding company that has two distinct divisions, those that we serve internationally and those that we serve domestically. So each of these institutions under threads and is pulled together and stitched together by the Proxy way, our ethos, our integrity, the things that I discussed today that we get excited about. That is the DNA of our firm, and it is embedded in everything that we do. The tools and the resources and the pipes from the international channel and the domestic channel are quite different because they need to be different to be able to meet the client where they're at. So it's like in your kitchen, you have your drinking water and your regular water. It's both water, but it's treated differently and you're using it differently, if you will. So those two divisions are comprised of advisors and administrative support that work interconnectedly like a symphony of financial professionals. And with those little symphonies, they can do about 35 or 40 different financial services, which is a lot. Most advisors can do 5 or 6 things. But there's things that we don't do, right? We don't do tax filing. We don't do legal work. So your estate planning documents, your buy-sell agreements, those types of things. We don't raise capital. We don't do bank financing. But we don't do TPA services. These are all necessary interconnected things that most plans built correctly need in one way, shape, or form, or at one stage or another in the evolution of that individual or the company. And for us to be able to have the access to the finance council that's comprised of those individuals that do it at the same high level that we do and have the same pride in that outcome and that product that we do. And it's not just this is Gary down the street, he does taxes, but this is someone that is very close to me, that we travel together, we present and educate together, we build together. I trust them like I trust my people. It creates this ecosystem. And I think our responsibility as an advisor is way more than what most people will touch, which our financial planners will not insist, but we prefer to manage the relationship for the CPA on behalf of the client. So when it comes to tax time, we're orchestrating that CPA in that client meeting, and we're in the meeting with them, and we're bringing in ideas to the CPA before they meet with the client and getting ducks in a row. So it's more like a state of the union for the client when we meet. So that interconnectivity, knowing that the owner of the team has a head coach that can put each position on the field and put the right person in the right seat of the bus to get us where we want to go as efficiently as possible. It goes beyond just managing your wealth. It's do you have the right resources to be successful? And it's very difficult to manage and to continue to trust and to check in on the ethics of all of those moving parts that you don't and shouldn't make any money off of. You shouldn't make money off of referring a CPA. That's what your client needs, and they're paying you for the referral. Like, you don't need the revenue share. You need someone that can do it great. That's the important thing. And to have the council, have C-suite give us the permission to put something together like this so we can build that anchor trust, and we can know when we walk in the room, I point at you, I know who you are, and I'm right there for you, and vice versa, and I can keep it moving for the client. That's everything. And again, it's that secret serum that I don't think anybody else gets. So
I want to follow that, and you mentioned it.
Paul,
That's
you're on
all
this
right.
council.
I just want to emphasize that you mentioned it, that there are no conflicts. You're not referring somebody that's going to give you money. You're referring somebody you trust. And that kind of brings me into the proxy circle. No rules. I guess it does have some rules. No booze, no pitching, no panels. We want to talk and we want to get to know who you are, and you do that exceptionally well. What is this event design that you have developed with your entire team to make it real people and not a pitch that's out there in front of people?
So maybe there's a little selfishness going on here. And I say that jokingly because I love bringing people together. And Proxy in many ways has allowed me to do that. I have dear friends from childhood, from high school, from college, from my days in New York, from my young working career, and people that I've met just within the last 2-3 years, all interconnected as part of the nucleus of Proxy. I'm incredibly fortunate in that respect because they're good friends and they are the best in the. It's like you go to college with somebody and you see someone grow and do their thing in their career, and you're like, they are killing it. And then at one point it dovetails and you get to work together. That is sweet symphony, right? That is a pleasure. And for us to be able to have done that over and over again, and it's creating something here, is really, really cool. And so the people itself is a big part of this. We want to make sure that the interconnectivity of us and how we work together isn't just from a perspective of, are we good at what we do, and are we the best at what we do, and then let's execute. It needs to be covered by a culture. It needs to be us wanting to get together. And there is no better way to showcase that than when we get together for our summit. And this is actually the first year where we're not just shutting the door and all having fun with one another. We've done this 3 years in a row since we've had a big enough team to need them to get together and haven't just seen each other all day, right? As a tiny little startup. The idea to open the door to our key partners, to bring in the people that we know, love, trust in our community, to anchor it or to kick it off with a C-suite mixer in Las Vegas. This is, I think, a big step in the evolution for us, where it's not just we love each other and from a like a ecosystem and a culture perspective, we really do enjoy one another, but we're at a point now where it's like, get in here and enjoy it. You ever go to like a dinner party and like the day before you're like, we should just invite them too. Like, wouldn't they get along well? Like, wouldn't that be more fun? And then you invite another couple or another group or another friend, and then this vibe happens, and you're just trying to think of like, what's it going to feel like in the room, and how can it be even better? Who do we want to share that with? So it's called a summit, but I'm putting bums in seats for very, very small amounts of time. And it's going to be very focused and distilled time that I would like to think is going to be really meaningful for all of us. And then I'm going to really like flip the whole thing on its head and make everybody do a whole bunch of fun stuff that they didn't expect with people that they may have never met before. And the goal being that we all leave and say, one, I met people that I'm going to do business with, and it's going to accelerate my career. And I see why Proxy loves them, and now I love them too, and game on. And second, this is going on my calendar every year. It's fun and it's viable for building. That's very rare. You usually have a lot of fun or you get stuff done.
I used to, in corporations I was in, we used to have team building exercises where we'd go somewhere for 3 days and do things like 10 of us trying to stand on a box or whatever, or walk logs or whatever it might be. But reality is you build a team, and that's one of the nice things about that. You got another pretty great team member that I've got to know and enjoy, and he makes me laugh all the time. That's Brian Calkins. Tell me about Brian Calkins and what does he bring to the proxy table for the business here?
Ooh, you let me gush about my partner a little bit. Well, first of all, he came to me because my girlfriend's dad said, you need to introduce CJ to your cousin Brian. So my partner in life's cousin is Brian. It's family-ish, if you will, soon to be family formal. So and anybody that's watching this that knows Kenny knows that he's a little bit pushy when it comes to a good idea when he's got one, and he's usually right. So he pushed us for like 3 or 4 months to get together before we even met. And he had 3 young kids living in Orlando, starting his career trying to serve the Brazilian community, and was running into a whole bunch of brick walls. Brian's from Texas, but his parents are missionaries, so he's raised in Brazil. I'm pretty sure he like thinks and dreams and contemplates in Portuguese, like he is English. I can tell when he's had a long day working on stuff or talking to family, and he says something. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's translated because it sounds weird, like one of those. So for all intents and purposes, thinks globally, and he did grad school in Belgium. He's lived in Peru. His family is in Chile and in Europe and in the United States. Very global. And he was raised in an area of Brazil called Curitiba, which isn't the flashy big cities and whatnot. It's more like cowboy. There's an accent to it. So you can imagine learning a few Portuguese words from him and then utilizing those in Sao Paulo and sounding like a Brazilian cowboy was kind of weird. Anyways, that's another story for another time. But the not only do the yin and the yang of us, he's very pragmatic. He's very non-emotional. He's very scientific and discerning. He is the ultimate discerner in my life. And I'm the wonder and inventor. If there is a visualization, I'm the balloon with the string that's floating, and he's the one with the string saying, okay, that was fun. Let's get back to it. So the trust we have with one another in going through as much as we've gone through, we chose not to bring in equity holders or outside capital. We chose not to bring in, uncle with a bunch of money that would then have a say in the way that we built things early days when we were very vulnerable. And going through that, we've created a bond that I think is stronger than most partnerships. And being in that position now and being able to rely on one another and our strengths is making us borderline unstoppable. His global perspective on things and how he thinks not just about our little bubble in the United States, but the macro, and he can get into that wonder and invention with me when it comes to that, helps me a lot because that's a weakness of mine. And when he gets pragmatic about things or starts to grind through the first order consequence and I can give him the second and the third, it empowers him. So he's one of the coolest people in the world, first of all. But as far as a partner is concerned, it's all the weaknesses embodied in strengths in him, and that's scary, if you will.
I understand. I get to work with him often. Yeah. Well, okay. Well, let's take some of his skill sets and some of your skill sets and combine them. And let's talk about the great advisor migration. What's happening in the industry out there? What is the opportunity that Proxy is bringing to the table that's going to just continue to help this audience and people that have companies like that are looking for something to do, as well as the investors that are looking to make more money? Let's put it all together now.
Yeah. This is the big thing that's going on under the curtain is that there's about $10 trillion in assets that are being managed by a professional that are moving hands in the next 7 to 9 years. There are probably, let me try to be as accurate as possible. There's probably 4-to-1 advisors that are leaving the industry versus coming into the industry. So younger professionals don't think this is cool anymore. And of those individuals that are coming or still in the industry, like myself, only about 1 in 50 are actually capable of acquiring in any way, shape, or form, let alone want to. So the supply versus the demand is completely out of whack for where it should be. And let me take a step back. These are practices that require a highly skilled individual to manage them, but the multiples are extremely approachable in our business. Think about it like a dentist's office. A dentist wants to retire. It is very difficult for you or I to go buy a dental practice and walk in the next day and run it, because we are not dentists. We have no idea how to put our hands in people's mouths. That's a barrier, and therefore the cost of those businesses, because there are fewer buyers, create lower multiples and more approachable. It's the same thing in financial services. The problem is private equity and the bigger dental offices or the bigger dentists have both seen this opportunity. They have seen that these businesses are worth a certain amount, and they're trading maybe a little less than they should based on the value and the consistency of decades of reoccurring revenue that just keeps on coming. As long as you do the right thing, you will continue to serve the same client. Very sticky. But the institutions that are looking at this, the big financial services firms and the private equity money even more so, are looking at it as just a hungry hippo. Right? From the seller's perspective, the internal transition, the melting away, or the sell to the institution that you work at, is by far the least lucrative of all of the options. You're being paid much less and over a long period of time than the value of your company in most cases. But it's easy, right? It's easy. You just say, hey, I'm ready, and then they do it. The second option, through private equity, is much more lucrative, as you may imagine. The checks are much higher. But private equity are not dentists. They've just started to figure out what it even works and how it looks and and how these things operate. They are not financial services company operators. And if you've seen in the way that a lot of private equity companies have started to aggregate over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, and then they've tried to go public and they've had false starts in going public, not one roll-up has gone public yet in the open markets. And multiple are poised to and are trying to, and multiple are late because they can't figure out how to get it profitable because they're not operators. They're just, they have the capital. And then there's the third bucket, which is firms like ours. And most of those firms don't have one of the three things that we think are imperative: capital, capability, or culture. You either don't have the money if you want to buy, because where are you going to get a loan? A bank's trying to compete with you. It's very difficult to talk a bank into giving you a loan to buy their asset. Really weird, but that's how it is. So capital is very difficult. Capability. Can you buy a practice with hundreds of clients and overnight absorb that responsibility? And culture. Does the person that's selling actually think that the people that are inheriting the assets are going to be good shepherds to their clients? Do they like them? The combination of all three of those things in our business, unfortunately, is very, very rare. And we strive
I tend to agree. And I have taken many clients that we have in years past to people that I knew in the industry, and they were not a single shingle. They actually had companies and they had company backing. But I will say that many times I've had them come back and say, well, I haven't even heard from my advisor in 3 months. I don't know what's going on. And that situation certainly is not one of a friendship or one of a relationship. So totally agree with that. Well, let's talk briefly before we transition for the next 3 or 4 minutes about most of the audience out here does not sell securities, they run companies. Where do these migrations map into a CEO with $5 to $50 million business and an exit somewhere in the horizon? CJ, are you there? Did you freeze up?
So challenging when that happens, isn't it, Paul?
Oh yeah. Well, at this point, we'll continue. Apparently, we had a break or a block there. So, Tricia, while he's trying to get restarted and coming back in, you and I have had the gracious pleasure of working with CJ now for several years, in fact. Give me your input and take on CJ as a leader, as an involver, and someone that you would work with on a personal level as well as a business level.
Paul, for me, And this is something that unites all of us in Hero Club, is that pledge to people first and driving a financial model that serves people first. It's just incredibly inspiring, and even the more so in places where it's supposed to be they're their little girl, they're their little boy, this is business. The fact of the matter is, when you have a mission that matters and you're driven to make that difference, to see people really succeed, then you do it differently and you figure out models where that builds on itself, that success builds on itself. And I'm so excited about CJ's leadership, Brian Culkin's, that CJ jumped in immediately. I get to brag about. And I just, that is so inspiring to me and so powerful. And the fact of the matter is, we need our money to work for us. And we have the opportunity, this incredible opportunity, to work with people who care about how our money is working for us, how we're delivering on what we want to be able to deliver in our lives. Not all of us can be the financial experts that CJ is, that you are, Paul, obviously the whole Proxy team. I love also the Proxy way. Why do it
Absolutely.
that way when you can do it this way?
No doubt
CJ's
about
back.
it.
So
And
I was
CJ has
talking
been
about
able
you while
to.
you weren't in the room, CJ.
Thank you. Thank you. My ears are burning.
They certainly were. For the next 3 or 4 minutes, CJ, share a little bit about that. Our audience, they don't sell securities, they run companies. What is your migration thesis map directly to a company CEO that's in a $5 to $50 million company and exit somewhere on the horizon?
I would say 1 out of 100 companies that we meet with actually have their financial matters in order. There is something that they're not doing. There's something that they're not seeing. There is some angle that they're not taking advantage of that's meaningful. And whether or not we end up working with them or championing any of the services that they need, like almost always it makes sense to sit down with somebody, as long as you don't have to pay them in advance. Like, that's part of the process. I want to see what you're doing. If you're in great health, I want to tell you that. And it's alarmingly rare how often that happens. So our job isn't just to sell us and get in there and figure out like what we can do to make money. It's like, how do I position you to be your best financial self, so that when I get you back out there into the world, especially in C-suite, because I'm going to see you, that you're as financially stable as possible, and you know that you have that resource to go back to, and you step in the good stuff again. But also, it's the value we bring to business owners isn't a cost. It's, we're showing you should be paying this much less, or you should be saving this much, or this efficiency isn't happening and this should be on your balance sheet and it isn't. It's going to the IRS or this or that. And when we show a client the outcome of our kind of autopsy of what's currently going on in the current status, the majority of the decision making is, if you hire us, we will implement and make sure it perfectly works a strategy that's going to save you $100,000 this year, Mr. and Mrs. Client, and we would like to be paid $12,000 for that. They're like, what do you mean? Like, you're in my life now. Let's go. It seems like common sense, but it's not that common that there is an outlet for individuals or business owners of any size to be able to do that. The big business owners, they have to trust issues. Where is it coming from? Is it pure source? Is it unbiased to a point where I can trust it? And that is a whole other difficult set of skills that an advisor needs to master. But we love the small business owner. If you're making more than $250,000 of profit at the end of the year, and you haven't sat down with a professional, you should. There are ways that you can improve your financial life beyond what you can do on your own. It's just
common sense. Common sense. What's one thing that every advisor should stop doing today?
Worrying about being an imposter. If you're true to yourself and you put the client first, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing what you've been doing. It doesn't matter how much you know. What matters is who you run with and how much you care about the other person. I think a lot of advisors that are great in their heart have imposter syndrome, and I don't think they have anybody to tell them, like, stop it. You're doing right. So if you're taking a deep breath and looking at your practice and you're saying, I do things right, and I still worry when I get into a meeting, stop. People need you, and there's not enough of you out there. And chances are you're walking into a room where someone has been misguided by someone in your seat, and you have a sacred obligation and a chance to earn something for the first time that could last forever. Like,
all right.
focus.
Quick question. We're about to have to wrap up. I'm going to throw things at you. What's one book or podcast or person that shaped how you think about your business?
Ray Dalio or Unreasonable Hospitality. Those two are pillars, my North Stars.
Your North Star. Okay. One sentence on the wall that every advisor should be thinking about on selling.
This is what it should feel like. ... Prove it.
All right. Well, any last comments? And then I'm going to turn it over to Tricia and see if we can close out our session on CJ Davidson and the migration of advisory firms.
You made this fun. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Tricia?
CJ, Paul, thank you, thank you, thank you. For anybody listening, whether you're a financial advisor of any kind, you're in the financial space or anywhere else, the inspiration to say I know there's a better way to do things. I know there's a way that capitalizes on my expertise, my experience to create more value that delivers the success of those around me, those that I'm selling, those that I'm protecting, those that I'm serving. This is the inspiration. This is what it's all about. And I'm so grateful and so honored to be part of the C-suite community with incredible leaders like you that are carving that space. It is the way to create real success, and that's a whole conversation that I think is just everything. It's the meaning of what we do with our lives and the difference that we make together. So I just want to say an enormous thank you to you, CJ, for showing us the way, the proxy way today, and Paul obviously showing us the way on this show every time we are together and having these incredible conversations and showcasing great leaders. So, quick call to action: come and join us in the C-Suite Support Council. I know we'll put that link in the chat. We love, love, love to see everybody. Tuesday, August 11th is our next one at 11 a.m. Eastern or 10 Central. And then, of course, we have our in-persons that we love to see everybody. Dallas is always the third Wednesday of the month. We're adding Fort Worth, Paul. Excited about that. Excited about that. That's going to be in September, the Tuesday before the third Wednesday of the month. That is a separate thing. And then, of course, we have Phoenix, always the second Tuesday of the month. We have New York, the fourth Tuesday. I'm getting ready. Actually, this is the fourth Tuesday that we're recording today. So that reception is this evening. And be at the Proxy Summit. I'm going to be there. I cannot wait. We're doing an incredible reception in our new offices in Vegas at the Sterling Club and kicking into this incredible Proxy Summit that I'm just so excited to be part of. So thank you again for that, CJ. And if you're joining us virtually, we have celebrates every second and fourth Friday of the month. We want to raise a glass, be a little bit of a shoulder for the rougher weeks. And on top of that, of course, we have the Monument Retreat coming up. So that is very exciting. You want a completely different experience with some fireside chats and real conversation with those that are carrying the same weights and responsibilities and ownership as we all are. The Monument Retreat, October 16th to 19th in Custer, South Dakota, right at the feet of Crazy Horse and Mount Rushmore, and such an incredible experience. Cannot wait. Please do join us. Oh my goodness, there's so much more, but that's, I think, enough for right now. Again, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us in such a great conversation today.
Well, thank you, Tricia, for joining. Thank you, CJ. We look forward to seeing you very soon, and I know we will. So y'all have a great day, and thank you from C-Suite Support and C-Suite Network.
Thank you for having me.
Sure.